What makes an indie horror game great? You will probably say visuals, audio effects, story, or maybe even art style. And you would be correct. Face of indie horror, Five Nights at Freddy has all of them. But in my opinion, FNAF puts a shadow on a game I actually believe to be the perfect example of indie horror. Enter Sallyface. This has been one of my favorite games for the longest time. It hurts so much to see that people aren't talking about it enough. Before I start the video, I would like to say that this video contains sensitive topics. If you are not okay, click off the video right now. I'm not gonna explain the story in this video and there are gonna be heavy spoilers, so I suggest you play the game for yourself because it's just a masterpiece and it's so much worth it. Let's continue. The game revolves around our main character, Saul Fisher, whose iconic look comes from his prosthetic mask, covering his disfigured face due to a horrific accident. After the incident, he moves to a different city in the Addison Apartments building, quickly makes a friend group with Todd, Ashley and Larry, which are gonna be our main cast. Him and his friends uncover the dark truths of the building as we progress through the game. This is a quick summary so you kind of get the point of the game. The visuals in this game fit and complement every other aspect of the game, for example sound effects, and even fit amazingly well with the story. The visuals sometimes feel like one of those close-ups in SpongeBob and sometimes are extremely graphic and scary. Besides that, I would like to focus on something that isn't really visible unless you think deeply about it. Something we perceive on a more of a subconscious level. Emotion perception. Emotion perception refers to the ability of individuals to recognize, understand, and interpret emotions in themselves and others. It involves perceiving emotional cues, both verbal and non-verbal, and making sense of them to comprehend the emotional states and feelings being expressed. What is it in our case? It has nothing to do with body language or verbal emotional cues. In fact, it's the visual elements of the game. Visual elements like color palettes and lighting can set the emotional tone of a game. Warm and vibrant colors might convey happiness and excitement, while cool and muted colors can evoke sadness and tension. A very good example of this is one of the scenes in which Saul remembers his past in a flashback he has near the end of the game. The colors are limited, the only different colors are the slight blue in Saul's hair and his dad's beard. The only color we see that is so bright is pink. It's there to poke our eyes and focus on it. Wonder why that is? It's the only thing Saul remembers so clearly. It's his pink mask he wears because he thinks his mom won't recognize him otherwise. He's gone, but he isn't ready to accept that. All of these memories portray a painful memory in a perfect way. The art style is almost like someone manically scribbled them on a sheet of paper. We try to forget painful memories, so this is why the mask is such a bright color. It's the only thing Saul remembers, because it reminds him of his mother and her favorite color. What is the brightest color in your painful memory? The music of this game is easily my favorite in all the games I have ever played. Just by opening the game, you're met with an ear-blessing soundtrack. The song I am talking about has been playing until now. It's called Memories and Dreams, and you should totally listen to it. By far the scariest thing in horror games might be sound. The uncanny valley is something that is frequently used with sound and video effects in horror games. It's a feeling you get when you hear something resembling a human voice but is far too distorted, muffled, or even in a different language you don't understand for you to actually understand what the person is saying. There are a lot of moments that fit into the uncanny valley with Sallyface. Take a listen with this first part of episode 5. It's as if you can barely make out voices and words, but the weird and unnerving music makes it even harder for you to understand the already distorted humanoid-like voices. Another good use of sound is the ambience that the game has most of the time. It's easy to make you feel out of place and at danger. Unlike in this example, you're just a stickman walking around. There is this music that is calming, almost like a child's cartoon. It doesn't really fit the dialogue or the environment. Suddenly it's all silent. As we stare into the abyss, it's making a weird noise you can't really explain. And suddenly... This is the game's way of making us feel comfortable with the music and the stickman figures. Besides the dialogue and the weird monsters in the cutscene, we feel comfortable, and then we are hit with a weird silence and weird noises, and we get jump scared, which actually scared me the first time I played this game. In my opinion, this is a very good example of how sound can be used to strike horror into us. The way the environment is changing during the game and cutscenes amazes me. In one of the cutscenes, we are met with a surprisingly beautiful scene. The colors are warm and bright. Sao is with his mother on a picnic trip. Suddenly, he hears the dog bark. Naturally, like any kid would, he goes to see it. As he goes into the woods, the trees get more and more into the screen. The music becomes unsettling. The environment starts suffocating us, making us feel claustrophobic, barely seeing our character. Suddenly, a dog head appears and we fade to black. After that, we're walking, oh bloody, in a town that is ruined and destroyed. The covers basically scream pain and agony. We hear ambulance sirens and see the blue and red lights. We pass through a purse, supposedly our mother's, and bones. After a walk that feels like agonizing hours, we get into a bloody and dark ambulance. As you've probably guessed, this is another memory. Moments before and after Sao's incident. The ruined city shows how our life was ruined just now, how everything fell apart in these mere seconds. That is how environment can strike horror and tragedy into us. Besides all of the things I mentioned earlier, this game has done yet another thing amazingly well: the story. Notice how throughout the video I've been mentioning memories of the backstory of Sao, so you stay there wondering, what is the incident? What could have happened to him? That's exactly the way the game tells its story, feeding you little by little, piquing your interest, leaving you hungry for more. In every chapter there is a hint of what happened to Sao, and finally, after completing the game, we understand it. What? You thought I was about to tell you the story? No. I'll let you play the game for yourself so you figure it out on your own, because it's really shocking. Our story before and during the game depicts what it's like to have PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a mental condition that makes you stuck in the past. Sao is still feeling guilty and responsible for his mother's murder. That guilt haunts him in his nightmares, flashbacks, and even in the afterlife. While being dead, he has to face the past in order to make a better future, to save everyone. In a final cutscene, Sao is talking to his mother, telling her that while being fixated on blaming himself, he forgot to thank her. Thank her for sacrificing her life and saving him. Every day since then, he has tried to live up to that sacrifice. He is finally able to forgive himself and move forward. That is what the final cutscene of the Afterlife chapter is showing us. Being able to move on. We should all be like Sally Face. We should forgive ourselves or others. We should let go. That is one of the messages the game is trying to tell us. The game is much more than a horror game in my opinion. It has very deep themes and messages. I might have gotten carried away from the point of this video, but have I really? Isn't this what makes games great? Isn't the deep meaning of games actually the thing that makes them good? Isn't it the connection with the outside world that makes them great? I'll let you decide that. I'm not gonna be the judge of that. I'm just a guy who makes videos for entertainment and who just made his first video essay, which was painful to make. And my final conclusion of this video is that Sallyface is the best indie horror game out there.